Hey everybody, Patrick here from Purposeful Armament. Today, on PA Concepts, we are about as PA Concepts as you can get. This is me vlogging because I wasn't sure that what I was doing out here today was actually going to really make that big of an impact, but it actually turned out to. So of course, I don't have any of my camera equipment, but I wanted to update you guys. For some time, we have had this issue with our mobile app, the PA shot timer. It's useful for both dry fire and live fire, but with the live fire mode, we just kept having this issue where if you were in kind of an enclosed area, or if you were shooting something like a rifle, the app would pick up multiple gunshots at the same time. So you would shoot once, and the app would pick up like 3 shots. And all of those shots were about like 0.03 second splits between one another. So very, very quick. And we poured over it whenever we were first developing the app several months ago, probably like, dang, it's been almost a year. And of off and on development, not of constant. We're a small business, right? We're a small company. So we don't got a team of developers working on this. We got 2 developers. I'm one of them. But anyways, we had that issue, and we were just racking our brains. We're like, what is causing this issue to double up? And we figured out that it was because, number one, you were hearing the microphone was picking up the sound off of the backstop or off of the berms on either side of the range. And we would back it up to a nice open field, take a shot, and it would be fine. It would work totally normal. But if we shot anything above like a 9mm, like a 45 out of a pistol or even a rifle of any kind, it just was not having it. It would pick up just multiple shots every time. And we were just sitting there like, why is it doing this? So we basically kind of thought that, well, probably what's happening is the sound is just so loud, and you don't have you have a very finite amount of like tolerance in the threshold with the audio package we're using for Android. Very small amount of tolerance, right? So you can't be super precise with it. So we got to thinking, and we're like, well, let's go ahead and just build in a delay, basically, because let's face it, if you're shooting a 0.10 split, then you're probably pretty good and you already have a shot timer. So we're like, well, let's just build in this little delay, right? We'll delay it enough by, 1/10 of a second to where it won't pick up any of the additional audio, won't pick up any of the reverberation, because by the time that happens, the sound would have died down enough to be below the threshold, right? So that was kind of the idea. And we implemented that, and we were like, okay, well, how are we going to do this delay? And the original idea was, well, let's just turn the audio, let's turn the microphone recording, because the microphone's always recording. It's always recording. We're not doing anything with the data. We're basically trashing the data as soon as the app restarts, so it's a new audio feed every single time. And yeah, we just said, screw it. Let's just turn the microphone off. So we tried that, and we were still getting it. And we're like, why is this still happening? Because if we turned up we're basically using the tick. So every single tick, we set it to every single tick, it would increment a counter by 1. And so after 10 ticks, which would be 10 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds, after 100 ticks, it'd be 100 milliseconds, which would be 1/10 of a second, which should be enough theoretically. But we were still having this issue. So I was like, well, what if instead of doing all this, because there's a lot of stuff baked into this library that we're using, maybe it's just taking too long to shut the thing down and it's picking up more shots as it goes. Maybe that's what's happening. So it's like, well, let's try something that's a little bit less intrusive. Let's just pause the microphone. We'll just pause the audio recording whenever a shot is heard. We're still getting this issue. I was like, why? Why are we still getting this issue? It was racking our brains for months trying to figure out why. And eventually we were just kind of like, well, maybe let's just leave it. Who cares? It's within like, a 1/10 of a second of what your actual time would be. Yeah, it doesn't look great, but like, who cares? Really, like, who really cares? the whole point of the app is just for it to be a for lack of a better term, a free tool for new shooters, for people who are new to training, or for people who are brand new to like competition or using a timer. You know, it's just a free tool for them to use to get acclimated with it and learn how to use it without having to spend all this money, right? That's kind of the whole goal. So we're like, you know what? It's a free app. All of these other apps haven't been able to really figure out how to do it, or let's just ignore it. But then, quite literally in the shower, a couple months later, I had this idea. I was like, what if we allow the microphone to continue picking up shots and it can continue calling the split function, but the split function just won't do anything because the audio is recording, and whenever it detects a shot, anything that's gone above a certain threshold of audio, like a certain decibel level, basically, it calls a function called split audio. And what that does is it executes, basically it tells the app to create a new split, and more importantly, it does all the visual updates right to the app. So it'll change your split, it'll add it to a list of splits, which we use to like iterate through. So once you're done with the drill, you can iterate through all your splits, and it also saves those splits at the end of your drill for a history feature, which we're implementing later. And I was like, well, let me just give that a try. And I'm not gonna lie, I did something dumb. I was recalculating a split time and it wasn't really working, and so it still wasn't working. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna give up. But then I took a look at it and I was like, wait a minute. We already were calculating what the new split was, and the new split was we were converting it to like seconds and milliseconds, but the new split was already being calculated. So I was like, well, let's just add a little check. Let's just say, okay, if the new split is less than or equal to 0.12 or 120 milliseconds, then just ignore it. Just move on. Just don't do anything. And I just came out here and tested it, and it freaking works. I was able to rip, and I did totally fine. It worked totally fine. It didn't have any issue with the backstop. It didn't have any issue with anything. It just worked. So I'm super, super excited and stoked about that. And I just wanted to let you guys know that is happening. We're doing that. So the app is now truly available in probably its best form, and it will be available on both iOS and Android starting April 1st. See you in the next video. Remember, stay armed.